Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcasting community by estate professionals for estate professionals, where we share the ideas and the access to people that help you work less, earn more, and do good in your community. If you get value in this free content, be sure to check out estateprofessionalsmastermind.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and free courses. To learn more, you can visit estateprofessionalsmastermind.com. Let's jump into this week's episode.
Welcome to our Tuesday Probate Mastery Real Estate Agent Brokerage Sales Coaching Call. I'm Bill Gross. We do this every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and everything in between. And this is the official coaching program associated with Chad Corbett's Probate Mastery program, which is at probatemastery.com. And he has several programs. And if you take the Probate Master certification, that's gets you into here, or you also can sign up for monthly coaching and be part of this call as well. Then everybody should take a look at for free. I just did a meeting on my own. Where I talk about 7 free tools to build your business, and this is one of them, which is for free, lifestyle and career design done by Chad Corbett. Click here, and there's no cost to that program. And the idea is to make sure you align your business and your business goals with your life. And so, I know that I can share what I do in my probate business, but I did that because that works for me. And that may or may not work for you. And you should design things that work for you. That way everything kind of flows into one step. So this is a great program. If you haven't taken it, it is free, $99, my favorite price. As well as the Probate Mastery certification. If you want to get certified in probate, this is the best class to do it in my opinion. I've taken several. I would recommend several if you're professional like I am. I've taken additional ones, but I learned something from each of them. But this, to me, is the most comprehensive. And for me, it's more about the come from and the positioning rather than just the forms and certification of the real estate business. And then Earn is a third program, which is how to get earn attorney referrals now. One of the most common requests I get from agents that I do is, how do you get more attorney referrals? That's my basic business. And in this program, Chad goes into detail on how to do that. And I'm actually one of the contributors to that program that will talk about that. And then as well, if you're whether you're in the programs or not, on Facebook, the free group is Estate Professional Mastermind. We have 600 agents who share information, share best practices, reviews, product. Feel free to join in the discussion there. Now, separate from that, I'm not a paid coach. I'm just really one of you. And I was on this call every week when Chad wasn't able to continue it for personal reasons. I stepped in as a temporary substitute teacher, and be careful what you do there because you'll end up like me doing it every week. It is my honor. But I host my own program, Probate Weekly, at probateweekly.com on Thursdays. And mine is more of an interview format. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I interview vendors and attorneys, estate planners and such, both as a way to show you what you should be doing. But that's really how I generate my business as well, as I both am a broker in Los Angeles and building a national team of broker agents around the country. And then I have my own Facebook group, which is Probate Weekly as well. We just changed the name from Probate Experts to Probate Weekly to go along with the program. And we have 2,700 agents there, and we get people who put in, I got to tell you, we get leads there all the time. People looking for questions about probate, both attorneys, looking for realtors, and other questions. So I'd love to have you guys participate in that. And all those are free. Okay, so the purpose of this call, and the reason why I teach it, why I continue to lead it, I should say, is because, if you're really in the business, we need a few things. We both need to constantly learn and improve. We need to share with people who are going to help us with our business. And we need to, I think, also just kind of share our journey and communicate and collaborate with other people in the business as well. Learn new ways, new tricks, what's working, what's not working. I will share with you, because I don't see hands up. Oh, let me back up. If you want to share, raise your hand in the Zoom chat. In the Zoom reactions, or put in the chat box and I'll call on you. This is meant to be participative. It's meant really to answer your questions and help you with your challenges. I do want to share with you, though, kind of a victory in terms of the marketing, and I want to challenge all of you. I offered anybody who wants to answer questions and set private coaching calls, and I have 40 agents in my downline. And so that's a long way of saying I spend a lot of my time during the week talking to real estate agents who want to improve their business. Some of you are on this call. Some of you know people on this call who I've talked to. And because I'm not selling anything, I can be honest, right? I could say, this is what I really think you need to do without regards to whether I make money on it or not, because I'm not going to make money either way. And if any of you ever talked to me about this or you heard me on this call, my constant mantra is start with the people who already know, like, and trust you, and that you already know, like, and trust. Some people call that their center of influence. Some call that their sphere of influence. If you're a Keller Williams agent, you might refer to it as the Mets from the Red Book. But whatever, you want to start with that. That's an asset that you want to build on. And whatever direction in probate you're going to go for lead generation, that's what you're going to use to build. It's one of the assets you're going to use to build. Just like you have money as an asset, your time is an asset, your experience and skills are assets, so is your Rolodex. So I'll just share with you guys that over the last 4 years, I've built a database. I had about a 600 or 700 person database up until 4 years ago when I was an agent and wasn't as careful about things. And I've built that list from 700 to about 3,000 that I would call my COI. People I've met, I go to trade shows and host events and networking events and whatever. And with Zoom, I get a chance to talk to a lot more people. So my database is about 3,200 or so that I email out every week too. I email out a weekly overview of the real estate industry. If you guys want to subscribe to that, actually, I'd be glad to give you that. But anyhow, I send out a weekly email on the real estate market, and then I video that, and then I have customers who, we open the video, and others who read the email, and that's my main way of staying in contact. When I tell people is instead of fancy drip campaigns, if you want to copy the email subscription, put it in the chat box. I'll get that to you. But anyhow, I send it out every week to my database. And what I say to people is instead of a drip campaign with 25 different steps and where they're in the process and all that's very sophisticated, just start with send something to everybody you know, like, and trust. So that's the easy way to start. And I do a whole video on this and where to get the content from. But basically, it's just my review of the real estate market. I make during the week notes and different articles, and then I summarize them into an email. And it used to be one article at a time, then it was two, then it was three, and now it's a little bit more than that. Over time, I found my voice. I've gotten better at it. But here's my point. I noticed in my database, I had another 6,000 people that were not in my COI. Different realtors, different vendors, lenders, customers who didn't do anything with me. Maybe people slipped through the cracks. And I said, I wonder what, and I get a great open ratio. My email goes out. On an average week, I get about 36, 37% open ratio, which is pretty good by most standards for that number. So I said, I wonder what would happen if I emailed out all the people in my email database, I don't know who they all are, who are not in my COI. So I went into my program, I used MailChimp, I said, all people not in COI, and I duplicated the email so I could separately see the results. And what was amazing is the open ratio is almost identical to those people I've been sending to, meaning I've been sending it to about half of my database thinking, well, they know, like, and trust me. The other half won't open it. When in fact, the other half has opened it. And as a result, drove more traffic to my YouTube channel. And as a result, some of them reached out to talk to me. So that's a long introduction way of saying, I think for all of us, and me included, I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying it to myself, that we need to be, if we really believe that we're doing something of value, then we should be comfortable sharing with everybody we know. Right? The reason why most realtors won't send out an email is they don't believe they have anything of value, so they don't want to send it. The answer is not to accept that. The answer is find a way to create value and then share that with everybody you know. And for me, the lesson is share with everybody you know, not just the ones I think are going to like it. So anyhow, that's kind of my take on that. And as a result, like I said, my email this week doubled. And so going forward, I'll continue to email that whole list. And hopefully that will inevitably will drive more traffic, more likes, more views, more leads, more sales, all the good stuff that comes with that. Okay, so that's my story on that. Let me just get that link and I'll put that in the chat box. Here we go. And there it is. So if you want to get on my email list, love to have you. If you don't, no problem. If you get it, don't like it, unsubscribe, no hard feelings. And Dale, I put that into the chat box. Where do I get my weekly market report? So Don asked a question, where do I get that weekly market report? And I believe this is something that every agent should do. I block out time every week, I block an hour for this process. But half hour is the content, half hour is the recording, and then uploading and distribution. So two things I do is, one, every week at that time slot, I'll spend time reading through different things in the real estate industry, looking for something that I find interesting and of value to my database. Over time, I made a list of different places that I go to get that information. During the week, when I find something, I get an email or see something on social media that I like, I'll put that in my notes for that time slot. I do this on Sunday night. That's when it's good for me. So I have a file with these notes, and I'll schedule time. This week, I actually had enough notes put together that I did it on Friday rather than Sunday, and I saved myself some time on Sunday night. So really, all I'm doing is reading things that I find interesting about inventory, rates, sales, prices, that I find interesting. Because it's important to have your voice. That's my voice. So I'm glad to share what my voice is, but you need to find your voice. And that's why buying a packaged email system typically doesn't work, because it doesn't sound authentic to being you. And if you don't yet have your voice, work on it regularly and develop your voice. If you write something every week, over time, you get better at it. You're not good at videos. If you do a video every day, you'll get better at it over time. And so that's all I've done is I started where I would just find one article I liked, and I would say, hey, Redfin says sells up, sells down, values up, values down. For details, click here. Then I went to adding a graphic from that into my email. Then I went to a couple different articles. And now I take those couple articles and I just record all that on video, attach the video with the article, and email the whole thing out. And I also post it on my social media. In fact, if you want to see it, well, I just put the link in the chat box. You're welcome to sign up if you want to get it. But if you go to my Probate Weekly group, you'll see the post there. It goes up every week on Monday morning. And let's see, where is it? It's a lot. I have a lot of stuff in there, but yeah, there it is. And so what happens is, then I also use some social media to broadcast it live into my Facebook group, so it looks a little more official. Okay, so there you go. Any questions of that or anything else, feel free, put in the chat box, raise your hand. First hand up is Larry Smith Group. I wonder, Larry, do you belong to the Smith Group, or are you just, let's see, let's add you to the spotlight for everybody. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Add to spotlight. Why can't I continue? Why can't I add spotlight? There we go. Larry Smith Group, what's up?
Bill, how are you, sir?
Dude, I'm doing so good, it's not even fair. Captain Larry, you have your own fans on the show.
So I did. I needed to point something out for you, because you need the critique. You used a term that anybody that's younger than 40, you might need to explain. You said your Rolodex.
Oh, yes. And, back in the old days. Thank you. Back in the old days. Does Rolodex even exist anymore?
Maybe at your house. I don't know.
Rolodex in the old days, before we had sophisticated computer systems, there were systems where you would take your contacts' names, addresses, phone numbers, or business cards and staple them, and there were different holders. There was like the straight box, there was the rolling over one, and Rolodex is another term from old people for my list of names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails.
Well, I knew what it was, because I study old people, so I knew what it was. I wanted to make sure they knew.
Yeah, you study American history. Very good. Thank you, Larry.
Oh my God, this is fun. Okay, so what you just shared there was like the stuff I call that is simple and that is easy to do, and it's also easy not to do.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to understand what you just said and implement. You tend to kind of gloss right over it when you're really sharing a building block of what you're doing to build your business. And I am guilty of not doing the simple. That's like building block 101 right there. Communicating with your database. Did you get any help? I don't know if you use KV Core with EXP or what have you to manage your data, stuff like that. Did you get any help like organizing your data? And because mine is so fragmented now, it's like I need to go in and have somebody like surgically put it back together and break out the SOI, COI, and just leads that are not really, they would fall into that other bucket list that you were talking about, because you had one list that was pretty much people that you've done business with or refer business to, or you have some sort of relationship with in the past. And the other group was people that you've kind of bumped into. You've had a general, maybe they hit your website or something and they got into your database, which is a lot of my Facebook leads are there that are not really like what I would consider that warm market, if you will. So it's kind of like, did you get help doing kind of putting that together?
I'm going to give a little longer explanation on this one because I think it's worthwhile. And what I would say is, if you're looking for the golden ticket, the magic pixie dust, or the easy pill to take you from 0 to 100 deals, this is not the section of the call you want to pay attention to. This is for people who really want to build a business and understand that anything in life that's of value requires consistent hard work. When I left management, I was a recruiter and coach and general manager of a real estate company, and left them more than 5 years ago, 6-7 years ago, the first time. I realized this was the essential failing of most realtors. It was holding back realtors from growing their business. And it was the number one stumbling block for new agents. And so I really put some time into this. I really spent some time. I've always been involved with CRMs, customer resource management software. I was a beta tester on the original product, which is called ACT out of Carrollton, Texas. Before that, they're called Contact Software International. I was a beta tester on Microsoft Outlook, which originally was a contact manager. It morphed into an email program. So I know the importance of a database, and then using that to both have all the information and then to use the information. And so I started kind of doing a lot of research on the topic and how to, I made a list of all the places where I had names and numbers hanging out. For example, as a realtor, we have zip forms where we do contracts, and there's a database with names, addresses, phone numbers, emails of prospects, customers, sellers on the other side of the deal, other agents, escrow, lender, and such. My old email program, I was using Gmail, but I had an old Yahoo email and exporting that. I had contacts in LinkedIn, I had contacts in Facebook, and in those days you could export them. It's harder to do today, but there are ways you can try to capture them today. And so I went through an exhaustive, plan of what to do, and just went through it all. And I actually created a program and sold as a consultant that service to agents. I would charge $1,000 a month for 3 months. I went through that steps. I found a company doing something very similar called Viral Marketing, VYRAL Marketing. They have a lot of free videos on the subject. That walks through the step, and they have blog posts that walk through the steps as well. And then they'll offer to do it for you for a certain fee. And I didn't use them other than I used the videos and their methodology, and learned a lot from them. I think they're great. Their basic business is, once you have the database, they'll help you get started sending out emails to your database. I've not used them professionally, but I do think I knew the founder when he started and watched him grow and use some of the same principles, but they're a great resource. So what I would say is those are the resources I used. And I think it's really important to, one, have a central place where everything is, and then two, think strategically, how can I communicate with as many people as possible, as efficiently as possible, as much value as possible. And I just do that all the time.
Can you kind of walk me through, because this is a question I got, like, I got the big picture of what you're doing, kind of granular a little bit, like, because I understand KV Core, because that's what I use as well, but you block, like, name a specific group, and that's how you separate the two, because it sounds like you got two big groups, 3,000, 6,000 or something like that. Is that kind of how you're doing that?
So I have a lot of tags. I have a number of different ways things come into my system. So I host people, like, this is a tag. If I meet you on this call, I do other similar calls like this where I'm a host or a guest. I host my own programs. I have a Monday program on home buyers. I have one on Tuesday on real estate investing. I have one on Thursday, Probate Weekly. I host live events. I have a once a month beer event. I have a once a month realtor training event that's live. I go to real estate investment club events. So when I meet people, I tag them how I meet them, and that helps me remember them. So when they call me 2 years later, I go, oh yeah, I met you at this. I don't remember anything, but I have enough notes to help me with that process. And then that allows me to think about how I'm going to communicate with them effectively. If they're a realtor, then there's maybe certain things I would talk about and not. And if they're not a realtor, there's other things I might talk about or not. In general, I think the mistake we make is we try to get too precise on the emails, because I'm sorry to point to disturb on, because like I said, here's a case where I literally sent out, I thought my targeted database, I'm getting a good open rate, and I sent out to anybody who's not in my target database, I got the exact same open rate. So at some level, it's not just, my sense of our relationship, but somehow they met me and want to stay in contact with me. And I don't know what it is. Now, it might be, for me, I do a lot of social media posting. I don't know if you would notice, but on Facebook and LinkedIn, I put videos. I'm sure I'm posting 2 or 3 times a day on all the social media. So it may be they're seeing me, and I didn't really understand how that kept me in touch with them. But so to answer your question, I'm not really a big believer in using those targets to limit people as much as I am, bring them in and know. I use the tags to know what's working. How many new emails did I get this week from my Probate Weekly show? How many new emails did I get this week this month from my beer event that I do? And that helps me understand where to put my time and my money.
Okay. God, boy, I feel like I could go all day just on this.
I can talk all day about this,
and because it's so important.
I think it's important. It's very deep. It's very granular. I'd like to say there's one answer or 2 answers that make the difference. But people say, for example, my Probate Weekly show is the largest probate real estate call in America. How do I build that audience? People ask me that. I go, I work at it all week long. I mean, it's just a relentless pursuit of how do we email, who's inviting, what's the link, when do we send out the reminders, let's change the reminders, the thumbnail, the person. It's not one thing, it's a lot of things. But what I would say is I do try to track everything. So for example, for all those programs I do or all the lead generation activities I do, I'm tracking how many they're generating. And if they don't generate business, I drop them and do something else. I don't pay for any ads, but I do pay for virtual assistants to do work organically with me. And that's how I really track my business.
So are you taking, like, when you do the emails, are you emailing just the video, or are you emailing the video and also, so both are going out?
Yeah.
So I signed up for your email list. So I guess I get it. I'll figure that out. But so that's helpful.
I don't make it sound like it's the be all end all. Okay. But I'll just share what it looks like so you can see it. It's not complicated, and I'm sure I could do it a lot better than I do, but this is what it looks like. There's a video on top, and then video is really me, I want to say reading the script, but basically reading the script. And this is what I wrote. And I always start with, again, this is me. I start with market stats on rates, inventory, and then a local market analysis. And then I have kind of what I would say my my thesis of the week or my concept of the week. So this week was
Okay, I read that.
Redfin.
Okay, I did read that, and that had a lot of your own opinion of what you read there, which I thought was, I thought that's what made it interesting.
I think you're right.
Your take on it, and I haven't finished it, so I don't even know if I agree with you 100% or not. But it doesn't matter. I felt it was interesting, and I'm going to share it on another call I'm going to do every week as well, because I thought it's a interesting take on information and why we should question everything that we look at. And the fact that you used the stats like you did to bear out that the headline did not match the stats, or excuse me, the graphs. And it was kind of funny because when you were bringing that point up, I was looking and I go, I don't see that. And then you brought the point up. So I thought it was well done, but not that that's really the point of the whole call or the question. It was really the fact that you put your stamp on it.
Well, I think I think it's really important that whatever you do, it be you. So you saw as me. And what I'm selling is me. So it should look like and sound like me. And so my strengths are, I have a lot of data analysis and data research experience and skill. And so I feel like I'm highly trained at taking, it was really interesting. I can take very, very sophisticated medical journals or other, statistical articles and analyze them, because I did that in high school and college at a very high level. And so people say, well, who are you? You're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but it's all written in English. And I understand how these reports are read. I understand how to look at a graph and look for the areas that are trying to fool you, in a sense. So that's my strength. And I'm not saying it's one you need to have. You have your strengths and you need to play to those. And so, for example, there's a guy who runs a LA real estate investment club. He's built a really nice big club. He gets 250 people every month. He sells different programs. His is more about, he does a weekly email, but he covers like Hollywood celebrity real estate and kind of pop culture story real estate, I guess I would call it. But that's him. And it works for him. And then when he promotes his program, he has a program he's doing on foreclosures this Saturday, but he does a video where he's playing Indiana Jones, because that's him. I would never do that, but that's him. And so I think the key to all this is, once you're in the database, you can be authentically you to a lot more people. Some people aren't going to like you. That's fine. But the ones who do, you want to find them and let them connect to you.
Well, I would even go so far to say that you picked that article because it spoke to your strength, your skill set.
Yes.
And you dove right into it, and it did come off very authentic, which is what I liked the most about it. So, wow, I could go on, but I know we're probably wearing the topic out, but we can go on. We go on this topic forever, because frankly,
there is no more important discussion to master, to be honest, than this. It's just that people get bored and won't stay on it. And frankly, I want to say I don't really care, because at one level, if a few people will take the advice and do it, they'll get all the rewards.
Right.
The truth is, you want to sell a lot of real estate. How do you do it? Work hard every day. I don't mean 7 days a week. I just mean the days you're supposed to work them all. And work at them professionally and diligently and with intensity as what's important to you, and you'll be successful. And if you don't, there's no other solution in the long run.
Okay, so I did have a follow-up question for you on, you had mentioned a company called Viral Marketing. Can you put that in the show notes?
Let me find
the geeks in the room that want to follow up on something like, because I'm big. I've swung the other way, where I used to have to do everything, and I'm getting to where I'm trying to find people to do things for me. That seems like a great use of time and money right there.
Yeah, and I would say for me, I'm a CRM nerd and technology nerd. And I enjoy that. Like my hobby, I would rather set that video and do it on a Sunday night than watch a football game. And I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong if you have to watch football. I'm just saying I've watched a lot of football in my life. I'm kind of done with all that. personally.
You got the Rams. I mean, you're excused.
Really. And I'm sorry, the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl was when?
That was too easy. I enjoyed that.
I'm sorry, when was the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl? I know they won a Super Bowl because I see the picture of this trophy a lot, but I can't remember. When was it?
We have 5 of them.
When did the last time you won? I know it's ancient history. It's kind of like the Roman Empire won a bunch of awards too, but when's the last time you guys won one? It was a while ago, wasn't it? Was it?
It was in the last century.
I was going to say it's been a while. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even remember it anyhow. Okay. So, I don't want to be an advertisement for Get Viral, but I would be an advertisement for Get Viral. Full disclosure, I don't get any money from them, and I didn't use the product, but as they were growing their company, I was watching what they were doing, and I think we both were kind of on the same plan, and that's why I kind of did it on my own. But I do think it's pretty good value for what they offer. It's just I'm already doing a lot of things that they're charging for, so I don't have any use for that product today. But they do. Mm-hmm. The owner's a fantastic guy. I interviewed him on my YouTube channel, Frank Klesitz, and definitely one of the real thought leaders in our industry, worth paying attention to.
Wow, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, that alone was enough, to be on the call today. So good stuff.
Right. Vince points out, just so you know, Larry, the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl was 1996. Now, my daughter was born in 1997. 96. So literally, she knows the Rams won a Super Bowl because she follows them, but she wouldn't know the Cowboys ever won one. I have to let her know that.
I think I was like 8 or 9 in 96 or something like that. So,
I think you're a little older than that. I think your recognition of age is as bad as your football teams. Okay, Larry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave now.
No, I have. Well, do we have any more comments or questions?
Go ahead. No, you're good. You got the floor.
And whoever posted,
we do have one I'm going to get to, but it's a good question. Also, I'll talk about zip codes. But go ahead.
Well, go ahead if you want to do the zip code. I do have. I don't know. Maybe I won't. I was going to run a deal by. You know what? I do have. Not so much the deal points. We could talk about that in more detail later. But so you're on the phone. I had a petitioner on the phone, and this guy, like what do you guys do? And I kind of gave him the big picture, how we come alongside you and help you in a variety of ways, and what are you challenged with? And of course, it was the stuff. So that dominated the conversation early on because it's what's important to him. And then we kind of worked our way to the real estate. And so this is how I would like to hear how you would say this. So we're talking, we have good rapport. It's a good give and take. And he says, oh yeah, by the way, on the real estate, I'm not worried about it. I already got a real estate agent. Now, this is early on, Bill. They hadn't even had their prove up hearing yet. I mean, the house is a wreck. He's out of town. It's absolutely perfect for what we could do for him. But you're on the phone. I just told you, oh yeah, don't worry about the real estate. I already got an agent. How would you work with that? Not that this would ever happen to anybody else.
No, I mean, it happened to me too. I think that's a standard process. So here's the thing. You can't help somebody, let's say, have a problem that you can solve, right? So if they have an agent and the agent can solve all the problems, there's nothing you can do for them. So why might they want to change from that agent to you?
They haven't signed a listing agreement. I should have said that.
That's okay. So they could change to you, but why would they want to? Besides the fact that, right, you're good looking and charming, why might a customer who has a realtor in mind, they haven't signed yet, maybe they can't sign yet, or they can and haven't yet, either way, same story, why might they choose to work with you rather than somebody else? And this is the essential question for all realtors, whether you're in probate or anything else. And this is the question that hangs everybody up, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. So
first off, just think of the question.
Yeah.
Make a note of the question. That is the central question in your business. Why should somebody use you rather than the other agent? Because when you can't answer that, you're never going to be effective. When you can answer that with authority, that's when you get to be effective. And so there's a lot of possible answers there. And when the answer to you is clear, you're just going to state the fact, and they're either going to get it or not get it, and you'll be okay with the answer either way. So, for example, you have to probe a little deeper. Every situation is a little different when I get that answer. Have they picked an attorney yet?
Yes.
Okay. And is the attorney good?
Has
the attorney have a track record doing probate?
Don't know that either.
So I would look that up as I was talking to you, and I would pull up and say, "Oh, wow, your attorney is Joe Smith. Do you know that Joe's only done one probate? At least I'm checking the records here in the last 12 months." My experience is 90% of customers are extremely unhappy with their attorney. And the reason is because most attorneys don't do this work regularly. It's separate. You really need to have a probate expert attorney. How did you find this guy? And so I might try to pull them off of the attorney. Now, if they're already signed up, they're already wrote a check, it's a little too late for that. Again, if they're in the shopping phase, that's another one. That's an answer, number one. Number two, you want to find what the status of the property is. Because most agents will say, well, I can't do anything until they sign the listing agreement. Can't sign the listing agreement until they have letters. But that's not true. I can go visit the property now, take pictures, knock on the door. So when I start asking more questions, I look for opportunities to provide my value in relation to who they think they're going to get. And at some point, they go, you know what? I get you're an expert in this stuff. I think we'd like to talk to you about listing the property.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I didn't even really confront it head on. I just said, oh, okay, so tell me about what is your biggest challenge that you're dealing with right now. And so he starts telling me, and then I start offering solutions. And then the next thing it is, he goes, would you go look at it? Here's the combination code.
Beautiful.
And so immediately I got access. I sent him a text after I got done and said, I don't know who was there last, but they left the bathroom heater on and the place almost burned down. I went ahead and turned it off for you. He was extremely grateful. And then I turned around and he said, you undersold it when you told me you had a big job. I go, you got an impossible job without help. And he came back and he goes, no kidding. And then I said, would it be okay if I call you again? So he called me back and I said, so tell me a little bit about the real estate. What's your thoughts about that? So I just left it wide open for him to answer. And he said, well, really, I don't know what I have here, which he has close to a teardown. It's not a traditional real estate listing. And in the sense that we're going to retail this and list it in MLS, and we're going to have all these qualified buyers and come out and do basically a tear down or a deep remodel. And I said, I don't think your property, in my personal opinions that you're asking me, I don't think your property actually sets up good for a retail sale. And he said, I don't either. And the guy I'm talking to, he thinks a whole lot more of it than I do. And so it led to that conversation, but I didn't choose to really respond to it because I didn't feel like I had to fight that fight today. I needed to know a little bit more about them and what they're dealing with and build some rapport. And then I could come back in and talk about the real estate, which I did yesterday. But
so when I was single, which was a long time ago, I had a rule. The rule was this: if I'm in a bar and you're a pretty lady and I offer to buy you a drink and you take it, I don't have to ask you if you have a boyfriend. You don't have a boyfriend. Now, you might have come in the bar thinking you had a boyfriend. You might go home at night thinking you have a boyfriend. But when I'm there with you and you taking the drink, you don't have a boyfriend. And the same with a real estate agent. If you ask the question, they might say, yeah, I have a realtor. But if they're telling you to go to the house and you're discovering these things, you're asking these questions, they don't really have a realtor yet, or they have you.
Right. Which is kind of how that played out. And I further verified it. I go, just I want to make sure, have you signed anything with this? No, we just had a conversation. So in his mind, he just had a conversation and he felt like there was one more box he could check off. But when we got down, he says, gosh, you really have done this. And then I followed up and I said, I saw a Corvette in the garage. I go,
whoa, what?
I said, I saw a Corvette in the garage. I go, tell me about that. Was that your father's? He goes, no, you're going to laugh. That was my mother. His mother passed away at 86, still driving this 1977 Corvette. It was hilarious. So we had a big laugh, and I go, what are you going to do with that? And he goes, I have no idea. And I go, well, I know this is going to sound like a broken record, but I got somebody that could help you with that.
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He goes, oh, so, I mean, you're the guy that could just do it all. I go, that's kind of the plan. Take it off your shoulders unless you want to do it. He's already told me he doesn't. He's overwhelmed, So anyway, I like how, because that could have been a situation where I did need to deal with it early on, and having the answer to that question, why should they choose you? Why should I care? Why should I do business with you above all others? Because aren't all real estate agents the same?
No.
So they're not. No. But in the public's perception, I don't think this stat has moved much, Bill, but I think 75% of all people interview only one agent. So the chances of you getting a listing because you were the first one is astronomically high, because the perception is pick one. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So think about that statistic. So I think when you ask people a question, they always, especially men, we always have an answer and a solution. So if you say, well, do you have a realtor? They're all going to say yes, because in their mind, they all know realtors until they really think it through. Once you point out the gaps, now they realize they don't have a realtor, they need you. So did they interview them and chose you? Did they not really interview them and you're the first? So I think the key thing is you just be the one that they sign up with. It doesn't really matter where you're on the sequence, but you want to make sure that they get the distinction between what you're offering and the other people do.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's all I got for you. I'll come back next week with more.
Yeah, and then if the Dallas Cowboys if we find out they won a Super Bowl after 1996, please come back and let us know, because I don't think that's hard to believe. It's been a long time. That's if I was a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'd be very discouraged.
It's incredible. I've been, since Jerry bought the team, I've been discouraged.
Yeah. I met Jimmy Johnson when he was coaching in Miami, and just one of the great human beings in my life I've ever met. But
he was amazing. I wish he would have been the general manager, but there's not enough egos.
Okay, so we're going to continue pro football this week. I'm sorry, we're going to continue our probate coaching call. So Zoom user, I'm not sure who you are, is asked a great question also on the topic of sending out emails every week. Is my market has 3 counties, approximately 6 to 8 zip codes. What are your thoughts on zip code specific emails? So I think that zip code specific emails is great as long as people identify the zip code. Meaning where I live in West LA, in my neighborhood, we call it Pico Robertson or South Robertson, or Beverlywood adjacent. 90035 is the zip code, but it covers areas outside those areas. And so I think you have to think about the zip code and what does it identify, what part of a city or where you live, and how does that work? I think doing a weekly video or report on a zip code, active listings, new listings, pending sales, solds, is great. And do one. And if you do one and you have a format or a template, you can do 6 or 8 of them. And you can also do 3 on counties. But I do think that that's a little too broad. I would focus on 1 zip code and master it before I go into 2. What do I mean by that? I would make sure, if my business was not probate, but it was more of a residential real estate agent, retail agent perspective, I would want to do an area that I could see every active listing and be an expert. So I could literally say, I've seen every active listing. And after 90 days, you'd have seen every sale before they sold. And that's a tremendous advantage, I think, in this market, to actually see the property versus just seeing what's online. I think we as agents, as an industry, got very lazy with the online stuff and can't really give the value, the nuance of the value to our customers when it comes time to pricing the property. And I do believe that by seeing the property in person will give you the strength on the pricing when you meet with customers to help them and also as far as competition, as far as the value of the property, the condition, design issues. So I would say better to master one zip code than to do 6 or 8 poorly. I would do one and create a template and then duplicate that maybe over 6 or 8. But I would certainly want to be able to stand and say, I've seen every single active listing in this market. And I mean everyone in person by going to it if I was just going to be a regular residential agent. As a probate agent, I run searches on every probate listing, those that need court confirmation, those that don't. And I check every single one online. Now, that's a much broader geography, so I can't really go see hardly any of those properties. But that's because I'm in probate versus residential real estate, where if you're doing more retail, talking to sellers, then I think you should really focus in more and go deeper rather than broad. I think most agents' mistake is too broad geographically and not deep enough. Okay, Brian asked, does anybody have an all the lead direct mail campaign knows what's working for you guys? Can I just share with you guys? I like all the leads. I'm a customer. I pay for their website content. I bought their brochures. I go on their coaching call. I started with them when Chad was coaching with them. But for most agents, I don't think mailing is an effective strategy. And I say that for a lot of reasons. One is agents I coach, the cost of it is, I think, way more than you would believe. If you really work the numbers out, the ROI, I don't believe, is what it's presented as for them or any of these companies they're presenting it. I can tell you that I'm working on a research project. I'm sure it's kind of fun. I have this folder, and this is the wrong folder. I am a petitioner on a probate, my market area. And so I'm getting phone calls and mailers from realtors. And it is really interesting learning being on the recipient side. So one of the things I did right away, once I got this, was I now offer to my customers $1 per mailing piece that they get, because I want to do some research on the subject. And so if somebody gets 20 or 30, I'll give them $23 or donate to their favorite charity or their church, whatever. But I'll say this. I don't know anybody. I know plenty of agents who make a lot of money who do some mailing, and the mailing supports what they're doing. I haven't met anybody who started doing direct mail and has consistently built a business over time with a return on investment they can quantify. And I'm not saying that mail isn't good. It's very expensive and has to be very targeted. I also get cold calls by agents. Interesting. I'm on the do not call list. I find that interesting. I just use the opportunity to research to them, just ask them questions. I get phone calls from people who hire VAs, and I just want to tell you that the connections are terrible, and the people call, you can barely understand them in English. So I don't yet have any conclusions to share with you regarding direct mail. If somebody does direct mail and want to share your experience, I would say not just you did it once, but if you've been doing it for a while, I'd love to have you share with us. And I'm not here to be right. I'm here to share my experience and learn from your experience. So again, I would say to you, if you have experience in doing direct mail consistently, whether it be all the leads or a competitor, I'd love to hear from you. I do use postcards a lot to my past clients and my attorneys and contacts, but that's a different strategy than mailing out cold mail to petitioners or attorneys. Charles says label and pivot. Not sure what that means. Label and pivot. And then Roger Lisi says perfect value building. I would definitely say that Larry did a very nice job, I think, of explaining the value he presents to his customer without really having to tell the customer, but more helping them discover the value he can create for them. Okay, we went a little long on the subject of database and such, but hopefully that was a value. Was that helpful to you guys? Was that worthwhile? I hope it was. Other questions, comments, raise your hand on the Zoom call or in the chat box, put a question. I'd be glad to, we have a few more minutes before we wrap up. Not seeing any. Let's see who's on the call here today. Hey, Brian, nice to see you. Grace, is that Grace? Nice to see you. iPad, my favorite, iPad. Jenna, nice to see you. And Melanie, always a pleasure. That was for Smitty asking questions. Yes, Roger thought did a great job asking questions and found the opportunity to create value for his customer. I think we want to ask questions to look for those opportunities, help them discover how valuable and how important we are. And that's not Smitty, it's actually Larry Smith Group is his last name. His last name's not Smith, it's Smith Group, just so you know. I mean, it says it right there on his Zoom call, so it must be true. Okay, any other questions, comments? Anybody here? I see hand up others. Angela Sanders, let's get you unmuted. Angela, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yes, my question was, I'm more early on in my marketing, and I did have some questions. I did hear in one of the previous recorded sessions, different discussions on the approach taken when you are having discussions with surviving spouses versus in or out of state PRs, as far as if the goal is, to offer value and ultimately, be able to take a look at the property. What are different strategies that folks are taking between those three groups of folks?
So out of state, spouses, and what was the third?
In state.
In state.
So out of state, obviously unless they're able to frequently visit, they may or may not have seen the property. They may or may not have keys. So obviously the obvious no trespassing sign, potentially if they don't have a key, a locksmith is a possible solution. But I was just curious, when you're talking with these folks, there's different, obviously out of state, that's something that is likely to that's a good probability to come up. A surviving spouse likely lives in the property. So I was just curious the different approaches that are taken with each of these groups.
Yeah. So Amy has the answer, jump in. I will say I do know that people who cold call petitioners will focus on the out of state first or give them higher priority.
Yes.
I do know that people who mail, some will only mail to the out of state because they feel they're higher priority. Of course, the out of state if everybody does that, then they get more competition as well. So I'm not sure how that works for everybody, but I know one agent in particular I know real well who's done real well with this business and focuses on that has done well with it. My guess is he would do well with anything, though. As far as spouses, if a spouse is filing a probate, there's probably a reason why. Now, most commonly, it's because there was a defect in the title they're trying to clear up, meaning they should inherit the property, but maybe it was bought, and sold separate, and they're excluded from the title. And for whatever reason, they want to go through probate to verify they're the spouse and they're entitled to change the title. So I see that being filed in probate, and the house is typically not sold because the spouse still lives there most of the time. Sometimes the spouse isn't living there. They separated years ago or illness or whatever reasons. So there's no answer with this 100%. But in general, if the spouse is filing a petition like that, most of the data sources, though, don't pick up those filings. They only particularly pick up petitions to appoint an executive administrator. They don't pick up spousal petitions, which is another type of petition. So to answer your question, I don't know anybody who's focusing on spousal, and I do know people who cold call and mail focus on the out-of-state with a higher frequency, higher priority type thing. Hope that helps.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any input? Anybody else here cold calling petitioners and or attorneys and particularly focusing on or away from out-of-state? No? Anybody here on the call cold calling petitioners or administrators? My experience is mostly newer agents because I just don't think that's I don't think for most agents that's gonna be a winning strategy. Now, I was a Mike Ferry trained expired listing animal, and when I started in probate, I started doing some calling on petitioners, but to be honest, I've never really done that. I've really worked my database and worked referrals with attorneys and not cold call petitioners. So I don't recommend that approach at all. In fact, the opposite. I would say, as I started in the beginning, you should start with your foundation, and then if you talk to that group of people about probate and avoiding probate, I believe you'll generate more probate business that way than cold calling petitioners, in my experience. Okay, Jenna Diaz says, just signed up today. Welcome, Jenna. Where do you sell real estate?
Hi, I'm actually in St. Cloud, Florida, Osceola County.
Very nice. Welcome. And are you a new agent or experienced agent looking to add probate?
First year of a full agent, and I'm trying to actually get into the probate niche, hoping that, I know I'm listening to a whole lot of marketing and mailings, but hoping that I can try the cold calling because I'd rather be on the phones.
Okay, great.
I guess I'll see how that'll work for me.
Well, I think the phones are great. And I would just say to you that just like I said in the beginning, once I had my database, I started calling them all. And I only got through the D's before I had enough business generated where I never continued calling even my own database. And so I think phone calls are great, but I would definitely make sure I had the name and phone number of everybody I already know first and talk to them, create value for them first before I spend a lot of time talking to strangers, just particularly for newer agents. I think that's the fastest way to the cheese. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Good luck and welcome. And you say you signed up today. What did you sign up for?
The probate mastery.
Great. So that's self-service. So come back next week and give us an update on where you are in the program and hopefully have some questions we can answer for you. Okay.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. A lot of love for Roger today. Thanks, Roger. And he's submitting to us. I don't know. Team Roger, good job. And team Larry Smith group getting some love today. I didn't get any love. I'm feeling a little left off here today, but I'm just kidding. Maybe it's too hard on the Dallas Cowboys. We have too many Cowboy fans on the call. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, look, it's the top of the hour, so I think we'll wrap up for this week and come back next week with some more questions and challenges and problems and victories, hopefully. I'm Bill Gross. We do this call every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and everything in between. And again, this is the program is affiliated with Probate Mastery and Chad Corbett's program. If you haven't yet signed up for the Lifestyle and Career Design course, that's free. If you have, consider getting certified probate with Probate Mastery or earning attorney referrals now. Continue the conversation over at our Facebook group, Estate Professionals Mastermind. Post questions there, put leads there if you're looking for out-of-state referrals of attorneys or real estate agents that are experienced with probate. Great place to do that. And then personally, I host Probate Weekly every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, probateweekly.com. Love to have you on there. That's free. And then I have my own Facebook group, which is Probate Weekly in Facebook. And again, there come in and feel free to post questions, challenges, looking for referrals and such. I'm Bill Gross. I'm a real estate broker in Los Angeles, California. And we do this every week. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on the call today. And we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Bill.